No one from 10 years ago would believe this is Call of Duty. I don't know. I got a wild imagination. Let's see if I would have believed it or not. I ironically haven't played the game in over 10 years, so. Wait, why is the game third person? I mean, the whole thing with Call of Duty is that it's first person shooter. Why do you get to see the main character from behind?
Taking the lead.
Is there a way to play Call of Duty now? Is this like what people do in the rankings?
We have taken the lead.
Yeah, I think the game lost all soul. I don't think it has an identity anymore. And I do believe that I know why. It's the fact that companies do not make games in order to be artistic. It used to be that back in the day you had like a couple of guys that really loved gaming. And they got together and they were like, all right, well, let's make a video game that would be awesome. Let's make a video game that we ourselves would play. So you would have like Call of Duty, and they would set it in World War II, and it's like, how would it like to be on the side of the Russians? Because we have so many other games that have you on the side of the Americans. Like, let's show the destruction of Stalingrad. Let's have some emotional music. Let's get the player to experience the tragedy of war. And they would create that game, and it would be amazing. Now, obviously, they would also want to make money. So they believe that if they make a good product, it will sell. But the main focus wasn't on the money. The main focus wasn't on DLC. The main focus wasn't on figuring out how to get the player to subscribe to some monthly subscription model, right? Like, no, it was like, let's make a great game, and if it's good, it will sell. And it was just a couple of people that did that. Now you have these massive corporations that have a lot of bloat. They have the HR ladies, they got the diversity consultants, they got the sensitivity readers, they got all the check boxes that they need to fill. And it's like, that's only like 15, if not 20% of what they do, which is distracting from the main game. But then they also prevent themselves from making cool shit because they gotta be politically correct, right? So you can't put some sexy waifu in it. Like, you can't do an anime collab because anime is popular, but they can't do that. So instead they're like, well, what can we collab with? Well, we're going to collab with Disney. Haha, because everyone loves Disney. Haha. Yeah, pronouns. Everyone covets the pronouns. If you have pronouns, you're going to it's like digital gold, basically. You know, everyone is trying to find the pronouns. Unironically, they made transgender colored bullets. Like, I'm going to make a video and talk about that tomorrow, right? But they keep adding all these gimmicks. They keep adding all this stuff because the game itself isn't selling enough, right? Like, for the size of the team that they have, the game itself isn't selling enough. So they have to keep adding shit that they believe will sell. And it's like, what does sell? Well, maybe like a DLC lightsaber. Maybe like a DLC thing which manages to pull the soul out of another person. And the game stops becoming what it was. It was a methodical first-person shooter, one of the best that were ever made. And I guess like its original success, it's also its downfall because they started making it yearly. And at some point, you know, you milk the cow, but there was no creativity, there was nothing else you can add. I mean, you know, you can make the game for so many years until the game itself becomes boring. And instead of just moving on and creating a new IP, instead of just moving on and creating a new game, they decided to keep adding to the stuff they have until, yeah, it doesn't look anything like Call of Duty. Like, I don't even know why it looks like this. Now, the obvious thing is that they also want everybody to play, right? So if you have a person that's drooling from the mouth and is unable to move the mouse, unless he uses his testicles, then they need to dumb down the game so that person can buy it as well. Which means that someone that actually wants to play competitively, like someone that actually gets invested into the game will become boring for them because it becomes way too easy. So you get, you know, this type of thing, which I guess is like the equivalent of McDonald's, right? Like, what is McDonald's nowadays? It's food that tastes bad, incredibly generic, incredibly expensive as well, And after you eat it, you don't even get satisfied, right? You don't even get satiated. And this is what they're doing. It's the McDonald's of video game. A very expensive game, incredibly generic, incredibly sanitized, and no one is happy. I'm actually curious if there are people that unironically can call themselves Call of Duty fans. Like, there used to be people that had their entire identity around Call of Duty, and the way I know it is because you'd go on Discord or you'd go on Twitter, even on Reddit, and you would see people with Call of Duty avatars. I don't see that anymore. Like when I was a teenager, there were so many people that had like all these Call of Duty avatars on them, and they identified with the brand. Now all I see is anime girls everywhere, and Has Been Hotel. Has Been Hotel also has that, yeah. But in general, you get to see anime girls, right? Because like the video games, they're so bland, so generic that no one can possibly identify with them. Like no one can, create their online presence with the video game, thinking that it's cool. Yeah, actually, I like VTubers as well. Like, I see people having VTuber avatars. Genshin Impact characters, yeah, like Nikkei characters. You see people with those in their avatars on Twitter. But I genuinely, do not see people using Call of Duty anymore. And this is probably why. Now, as I'm looking at the comment section, everyone is basically saying the same thing. When Call of Duty was realistic, video games suck now. Like, this is not just my opinion. This is the Call of Duty I know. Call of Duty died after this installment. Fortnite graphics have never looked this good. Yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of gaming companies do. They're like, oh, this game was successful, so let's make it exactly like that. And obviously the problem is, just because one game was successful, it doesn't mean that if you recreate it, it's going to be just as good. But they don't understand that. I literally thought this was Roblox when I first saw it 10 years ago. People had standards, while I agree doing this shit because it makes you laugh and good in limits. Once you delete those limits, this is what you get. Some games used to be so bad, it's good. The Japanese actually have a name for that, like games that are so bad it's good. They call them kuso games. It means shit games. But there is like a culture around shit games. Like games that are so shit that it's good. I don't think this is a game that shit which is good. I think this is just a shit game. Like, I'm looking at it and I generally, do not see why I would play this. And I'm looking on PlayStation. There's this game where you're playing, little toys in a supermarket and you're creating chaos. Like, the toy soldiers are fighting with each other. And that looks kind of fucking cool. But I was surprised when I realized it's a bestseller. It's like, why is this game bestseller? And then when I realized what the competition is, it's like, well, all of a sudden, everything makes sense. I wonder if we're ever going to go back to having good games, honestly. Because this is just ridiculous. I mean, this is so generic, so bland. It's almost like I'm looking at it, and I'm like, well, it feels as if I played this game before. Even if it wasn't Call of Duty, right? Like, this looks like some mod from, a niche game, a niche title. And someone did this for free. And it just ended up being, something that people like to play. This is how I view this. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.